Okay, we're going to get into this is part one of the Philosophy of Time series, and we're going to discuss the development of the Western linear concept of time. And I'm going to argue that this concept of time is a constructed concept of time. Okay, in other words, that it isn't necessarily more real, quote unquote, than other concepts of time. Um, Anyways, before I get into it, right below, right there, down below where it says show more, I'm linking to Jason Zari because he's been my philosophy tutor in areas of philosophy other than set theory, areas of analytic philosophy other than set theory, okay. Um, so he's been, and all mistakes in this series are mine. All credit to him as far as helping me get my facts straight and in order on areas of analytic philosophy that are non-mathematical. Uh, I have an audio recording of his, and also I have a link to his organization, which is Scholardarity. Their purpose is to help people who want to publish scholarly articles rather in a journal, be they PhDs, master's degrees, or even BAs, but who want to write high quality scholarly articles and want the joy of research and the joy participating in a scholarly community. So his organization is dedicated to that. And remember, these are trying times for university professors and grad students. So it might be something to check out. Okay, let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start from the beginning, or what we call the beginning, and that would be the hunter-gatherer period. In the hunter-gatherer period, I would argue, okay, based on the anthropological research. I'm not an anthropologist, but I have read rather widely in literature on the subject that hunter-gatherers had an understanding of space and time that you might almost call intuitively Einsteinian. Okay, that the idea of space and time as, in a sense, part of a larger fabric would be something that would be intuitive to them. Now, they also maybe were intuitive Einsteinians in the sense that space, time, matter, energy didn't have easy divisions for them, that space and time were understood as natural aspects of the natural world. They were relational, but not necessarily in a tensed sense. Past, present, and future were not necessarily so binding on them. That what you had in reality is you had the motions of animals, the movement of the stars, which from, again, a human standpoint seem to move through the sky, the movement of the people, okay, in other words, hunter-gatherers would tend to call themselves, quote-unquote, the people. And you had good. You had the understanding of the natural world in which space and time are not abstractions. Okay, space and time were real, although whether they were considered the ultimate reality might depend on whether you were the shaman or whether you were seen as somebody who could see beyond this reality or not. That's another question. But they were seen as real in the sense that our life experience is real. But I don't believe hunter-gatherers knew time as an abstraction. Okay, they knew the cycles of the stars, and they knew those well. They knew the natural cycles, and they knew those well. But they did not believe that there was something called time that ruled existence. To be very clear, time as an abstraction appeared to emerge with the agricultural age. And that would be cyclical time, okay, the seasonal time, which the hunter-gatherers knew very well, of course, but they didn't, and were ruled by to an extent, you know, the flow of the caribou and everything. But I would say for hunter-gatherer societies, one gets the sense that the caribou are almost like self-determining beings. The reason they go here in the winter is that's what they do. It's not that time forces the caribou to go here in the winter as opposed to someplace else. That's what the caribou do. That's their nature. It's neither a choice nor is it deterministic. It's the flow of reality. Whereas in the agricultural period, humankind began to be ruled by the cyclical understanding of time, where time rules the seasons. And for thousands of years during the agricultural period, Caesars came and went, religions came and went, empires came and went. But for peasants, at the natural the village level, the important thing was seeds, planting the right time, tending the animals, and in some sense there was a cyclical nature of reality. When Christianity took over Europe, it had to adopt very much of the cyclical understanding of time, because that was the understanding of the European peasants. And now kings, popes, and dynasties, sure, they might have operated under what we would today call the linear concept of time. But for a person who tilled the land, the understanding of time was going to be cyclical. And again, the form of Christianity that was adopted was going to adopt planting cycles, harvest cycles, saints' days, feast days, fast days, and cycles of penance. Cycles of even in monastic practices, if you're talking about monasteries, there was a heavy emphasis on cyclical time. Arguably, the modern Western concept of linear time began with probably three events: the Reformation, the Enlightenment, and the Industrial Revolution. Now, the Reformation and the Enlightenment probably need to be discussed more in the context of relations with authority. Remember that in the Middle Ages, you had a few people operating on a linear concept of time, and then a lot of people operating on a cyclical concept of time. But with the Reformation and the Enlightenment, you had an increase in the idea of political participation, the idea of people moving up into the middle class, the idea of particularly the more radical modes of the Reformation, such as in England during the English Revolution, and the more radical forms of the Enlightenment, such as Rousseau, the French Revolution, eventually you might even say the socialist movement. You had the idea of increasing numbers of people moving out of cyclical time into where they determine their own time, whether individually or collectively. However, really, and so with that, what you then have is increasing numbers of people adopting a linear concept of time. Now, I would say, though, really, it was the Industrial Revolution that really brought linear time to everybody. Now, you could argue that going by the clock, there's a cyclical aspect to it, sure, but you never completely dispense with cyclical time, but the linear aspect of the movement of time has a whole lot to do with a progressive movement. You are here, and you need to get goods all the way across the country. You need to plan in a linear concept of time. You can't, sure, there's a rainy season, but you're not going to stop and propitiate the gods. You're going to haul through the rain, and you're going to get to the other side of the country and deliver the goods, and then get back on a schedule. Okay, so even more than the Reformation and the Enlightenment, I would say, in a way, the Industrial Revolution really put us on the linear track of time. Now, the computer age brings us to where our concept of time is very tensed. More so, I think, even than the Industrial Age. We have a strong sense of the present. Yesterday was the past. Tomorrow is the future. In the Industrial Age, the present is now, let's say the present would be this century, maybe the 20th century. The past would be, I don't know, the 18th century. And the future would be where we have colonies on the moon. Now, that's a tensed understanding of time. And with the Industrial Age, the tensed understanding of time, the understanding of now as a present moment, was very much enhanced. But with the computer age now suddenly becomes, well, yesterday was the Clinton era or the Bush era, and then tomorrow is the, let's hope not, but the Rick Perry era. I mean, it's that focus now to where our concept of time is very compressed. So, in summation, from the hunter-gatherer period to now is an ever-increasing tensed understanding of time. The understanding of time as a kind of relational understanding of time. Now, Einstein maybe understood time, the scientists can have their understanding of time and it might be a little different. But your and my understanding of time in its reality is very much of a hurried, paced thing. We don't often appreciate how constructed that is. Okay, we're going to get more into the Western concept of time in a future video series. Thank you very much.